Hello and welcome to my new video. Today we will be talking about the books that I read in the month of May. I'm sorry for my bare face, but today I couldn't be bothered to put on some makeup, so you have what you have. And maybe just jump in. So the first book that I read in the month of May was the Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James, and I gave this book 5 stars. It was amazing. Look at all those tabs that I had on this book. And yeah, it's very polarizing book, I think, because there's people who love this book like me, or there are people who hate this book. I haven't met any who is in the middle. In this book we have a girl, Shea, who works in a doctor's office, and in her spare time she runs a blog called the Book of Cold Cases, where she tries to solve the cases that are unsolved yet. And so happens that she meets one of the women from those cases that she's trying to solve, who was convicted or said that she is a murderer, and she wasn't sentenced. Oh, I'm just trying not to spoil you with my description. And now she's trying to find out what really happened, and she is interviewing that woman. And in this book we also have some paranormal things, and I love that aspect of this book. And like I said, it was amazing. It was a page turner. All the time I was on the edge of my seat. I loved Shea. Sometimes she reminded me a little bit of myself, so maybe that's why I love this book so much. So definitely recommend this one. The second one that I listened on in the month of May was In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I listened this book for my book club, and in this book we have 6 friends, 1 college reunion and 1 unsolved murder. That murder happened when they were in the college, and now they're coming back for the reunion, and now they will try to find out who was the real killer. And it was so boring, to be honest. I don't remember almost anything. I don't remember the names. I don't remember who was the real killer. So I think I gave it 2 stars, but those 2 stars were very generous. Like I said, it was just too boring for me, too slow, and yeah, that's all I remember. Not much, but definitely do not recommend this book. Stay away from it. The third one that I DNF'd at around 80% of that book was Notes on an Execution by Diana Kulkavka. In this one we have a serial killer who is now on the death row, and his life is told by 3 women in his life. I think his mother or his see, I already forgot what. I think one is the detective, one is I think his mother or his brother's or sister's wife, brother's wife maybe. I do not recall this book, but I just couldn't force myself to finish it. It was just too boring. I just couldn't concentrate on the words, to be honest. I drifted all the time that I tried to listen for that book. I just drifted away, and I had to force myself to try to listen it. And usually when I listen a book, I listen it in 1 or 2 days, and this one I tried for maybe a week, and I just couldn't in the end, and that's why I gave 1 star and I DNF'd it. Another one that I also listened, to be honest, this month majority of my books were audiobooks, but nonetheless I think I can call myself a reader. So another one that I listened was The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and in this one we have 2 sisters, Vivian and Isabel. Vivian, I think, is the quiet one, the one who follows the rules, and Isabel was the one who tried to take the world and she was the rebellious one. And so happens that the Second World War descends on the France, and now Isabel is a Nightingale who tries to help soldiers to cross the borders. And Vivienne, finally, she is the one who has to decide what is most important to her, the family relationship, the love between sisters, or just following the rules. What is the important thing for her? And I loved this book. I think I listened that one in one day and I gave it 5 stars. It was just mind-blowing. I loved both of the sisters. I understood both of them. I think Isabel at the times made a little bit questionable things. However, she was young. She was, I think, 18 when the war started. And of course I understand Vivienne, why she did what she did sometimes, because she had a child, and I know what it feels like when you have to think about your children, about your child. So it was very heart-wrenching book, sad one, however very thought-provoking, and I loved the writing style. It was just so compelling, and I just fell in love with this book. And hopefully those who haven't read it yet will try to read it soon. The other one that I also DNF'd around 50% of the way was the Falling in Love Montage by Ciara Smith, and it was a LGBTQ plus YA book about 2 girls. It was a sapphic book. The only thing that I remember about this book is that I hated the main character. She was so childish. I think the way she acted towards her father, and yeah, it was just infuriated me. So I decided to just put it away. Maybe someone will enjoy this one, but definitely not me. Another one that I listened was Tokyo Ever After by Emiko Jean. I gave this one 4 stars. It was very cute. A little bit old school, a young adult romance book between Izumi and her bodyguard, because it's just in the beginning of the book we find out that Izumi actually is a princess. So it reminded me a little bit of a Princess Diary, only that it was about Japanese princess. So yeah, I just flew through this book, and it was very heartwarming, very fun, very yeah, just cute story for I think more of the younger side of young adults. So definitely recommend picking this one up. My camera is flashing, so I'm trying to rush this wrap up. So the one that I also listened on the audio, and I gave that one 4 stars, was Dumb Witness by Agatha Christie. Sorry if the light has changed, because I had to charge my battery. So I think we were talking about the Dumb Witness by Agatha Christie. So I gave this book 3 stars. It's almost the usual rating for me for Agatha Christie books. In this book we have Hercule Poirot, who's trying to solve a murder and find a real killer. And this one we have Emily Arundel, who accidentally trips on a dog's ball, and after that she starts to think that maybe someone is trying to kill her and it wasn't an accident. So she writes a letter to Hercule Poirot, and the story begins there. I like stories like this. It's very cozy mystery, you know. And Hercule Poirot, he's a interesting but I think not very likable character because of his arrogance. But it's like a breath of fresh air to have a main character like this. He's very confident. He likes himself very much and thinks that everybody around him should do the same. So it's actually quite funny to read his thoughts sometimes. So like I said, I gave it 3 stars. Also, in the month of May, I listened and I read, I mixed my reading, Pachinko by Minjin Lee. And in this one we have the Korean family. It's almost a family saga. The struggles of one family of trying to survive in a tough times, and what you should sacrifice for the happiness of the ones you love, and things that can break you and the ones around you. And it was a very sad, I think it was a sad book, you can say that. And the writing style, oh, it was so good. I thought that I won't like this book, so that's why I was putting away reading it. But finally I just bite the bullet and pick this one up, and I'm not disappointed at all. I gave it 5 stars. I think everyone in schools should try to read this one and analyze this story. And yeah, 5 stars, one of my favorites this year. Another one that is quite popular at the moment is I have a Lithuanian edition. It's Regis mane viskas gerai by Meg Mason. The original title of this one is Sorrow and Bliss. And in this one we have a woman, Martha, who thinks that there's something wrong with her. In the young adult years of her life, she started developing almost as if it was a depression, but I think it wasn't a depression. And she tried everything. She tried medication, she tried therapy, she tried and changed a lot of doctors, and she knows in her heart that there's something wrong with her. And I think now we are in the adult years of her life, and I think now her husband is quite sick of hearing that, so yeah, they separate. And it's about how Martha tries to find out the solution to help herself feel better, because yeah, there's definitely something wrong with her. And I loved it. I tabbed it. I gave it 5. I think I gave it 5 stars. It was my favorite of the month. And yeah, I found a lot of similarities with Martha, and I felt her. There was parts of the books that I almost cried reading it, because it was as if it was written about me. So it was very close book, close to my heart. So I think I will reread it a lot in the following years, and hopefully you will be interested enough to pick this one up. Mind you, there's a talk about taking your own life, about depression, about anxiety, and so on. It's very heavy topics, and it is dealt with them very well in this book. So yeah, recommend this one. Also in this month I listened a book, Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. It's a very popular author at the moment. I think it's also a very popular book. It has a very high rating, above 4 stars on Goodreads. However, I gave it only 3 stars, not only but less than average of this book. So in this book we have Frances, and she has been a study machine with one goal. Nothing will stand in her way, not friends, not guilty secret, not even the person she's on the inside. The Frances meets a lead, and for the first time she's unafraid to be herself. When the fragile trust between them is broken, Frances is caught between who she was and who she longs to be. Now Frances knows that she has to confront her past, to confess why Caris disappeared. Frances is going to need every bit of courage she has. Engaging with the themes of identity, diversity, and the freedom to choose, Radio Silence is a tour de force by the most exciting writer of her generation. I can see why people like this book so much, because it was about, like it says, it's a very diverse book, and it's about the topics that everyone should talk now, especially in the month of June, because it's a Pride month. And I wasn't in love with both characters, to be honest. I didn't like any of the characters. They were flat and one-dimensional, and some of the decisions they made were questionable, to say the least. So yeah, when I read that book, one thing that I was thinking almost all the time was, when is it going to end? Because it was dragging a lot, and the ending was for me a little bit anticlimactic. So yeah, 3 stars. Next one that I listened on my audio was also a LGBTQIA plus book. It's Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This time I really enjoyed this book. This book already is on my wish list on Book Depository, because I'm planning on buying it, because it was amazing. I gave it 4 stars. I loved the main character, Luke, who is poor guy, a little bit unlucky at the moment, and he lost all doubt of having a happy and good life. He doesn't think that he is worth having someone in his life who can love him for who he is. And yeah, it's about how he finds his love, and there's a little bit of struggles, trust issues between the main 2 characters, but nonetheless it was a very fun and cute love story between 2 guys, and I definitely recommend picking this one up. The last one that I listened on my audio is Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed. And in this one we have, yes, Jamie Goldberg is cool with volunteering for his local state senate candidate, as long as he's behind the scenes. When it comes to speaking to strangers, Jamie's a joke artist. There's no way he'd ever knock on doors to ask people for their votes until he meets Maya. No. Maya Rahman having the worst Ramadan ever. Her best friend is too busy to hang out. Her summer trip is cancelled, and now her parents are separating. Why her mother thinks she's so I can't speak. Why her mother thinks the solution to her problem is political canvassing with some awkward dude she hardly knows is beyond her. Maybe so. Going door to door isn't exactly glamorous, but maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. After all, the polls are getting closer, and so are Maya and Jamie. Mastering local activism is one thing. Navigating the cross-cultural romance of the century is another thing entirely. And like it says, it is a romance between those 2 characters, Maya and Jamie. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. It's one of the books that I will be recommending for my son when he will be older to read, if he will like reading. I hope he will. And it deals with quite heavy topics about cultural issues, about Muslim people, about how they are portrayed, and all the prejudices around Muslim people, and not only Muslim people but around Jews. And yeah, just 2 young people trying to make some changes and be happy with their life. So I gave it 4 stars. And the last one that I read in the month of May was Kvinnen I Lugarti, or The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. In this one we have a journalist, Lou Blacklock, who is in a cruise ship in the Norwegian seas, on the Norwegian fjords, and some things happens in that cruise ship, so now she is trying to find out what happened, and maybe she will have to fight for her life as well. It was quite a short book, and I thought that I will like it because of who the author is and for the description, but actually it was quite boring. It took me ages to finish this book, and in the end I just tried to skip few pages just to reach the end, so that's not a good sign for a book. I didn't like the main character Lou. Mostly all of the problems she had was because of her own fault. She wasn't a trustworthy character. You never knew if what she saw or heard was true, or it was just because she was drunk. So yeah, not the greatest of ends of the month. I gave it only 3 stars, unfortunately. So here are some of the books I read in the month of May. I tried to speak as quickly as possible because I have read a lot of books and I don't want to waste your time on blabbling about all of those books, but hopefully you get my point about each and every one of them. And yeah, hopefully I will read more of physical books in the month of June. Hopefully you will give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!